So hi everyone, welcome to this month's episode of the Pep Talks. So this month I'm chatting to Becky, who is the director at Swwim. Swwim are an awesome social and content agency, and we're going to be chatting a little bit more about how DTC brands can leverage social media and content strategy in order to essentially drive deeper engagement with customers and boost their retention. So welcome, Becky.
Thanks for having me.
I guess firstly, it would be super helpful just to kind of dive into a little bit more about Swwim and what you guys do.
So, as you said, Swwim is a content marketing agency. So we specialize in social media. So the core areas are content strategy and creation, influencer marketing, paid social, and community management. And we work with predominantly DTC brands. So in the sectors, health and beauty, fashion, food and drink, lifestyle, basically.
Nice. Okay, cool. How long have you been going for?
Since 2018. Yeah. And there's 5 of us in the team. My role is new business strategy and client services.
Yeah, cool. Great. And tell us a little bit more about kind of the role that Swwim plays in helping brands create sort of longer term relationships with customers.
So I tend to liken content marketing to like friendships in real life.
Yeah.
So you can't expect to have one good conversation with a person and then be best friends forever. You have to, in friendships, you have to put the effort in, ask them about themselves, turn up to their birthdays and, continually put that effort in and be a supportive person. And I think brands have to do that with their customers too. So you can't expect to put out like one piece of content a month and, people just to love you forever. You have to be continually staying front of mind and basically supporting them like you would a friend. So that's what Swwim does. So we might create some content that forges some kind of connection with a brand's audience, but yes, we need to stay front of mind. So we do create quite a lot of content on social media in order to do that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's quite a good analogy. So it's really about kind of being consistent, I guess, and keeping up that relationship with your customers.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. And that kind of leads me on to my next question, which is sort of around the key mistakes that you see brands working with, that you see brands making when it comes to their content strategy. Are there any kind of obvious red flags that you see when you start working with clients, or that are kind of big no-nos when you sort of dive into their strategy?
I think there's something that I've noticed recently, and it's kind of because the way TikTok has changed everything on social media, like trends now start on TikTok. And I think that it's great to see lots of brands now experimenting with TikTok and really using it to their advantage. I think it can be really tempting once you start analyzing what's working to go really hard on the trends and forget about the content that's relevant to your particular audience and your particular brand, because quite often the trend-based content is the best performing, or at least seems so. And you can see like sort of quick results and quick success with that type of content. So I can totally see the temptation to be like, okay, let's just do more of that. But then actually, if all the brands are doing that, then everyone just seems the same, and you kind of lose the core of what your brand is about. So that's one of my mistakes that I've noticed.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's really interesting, because I can imagine, as you say, it's so easy for brands to just hop on that kind of trend bandwagon.
Yeah,
almost kind of content that's content ideas that's given to them on a plate, and so I guess it's an easy, potentially an easy win, whereas actually it means that you just kind of merge into the background of
exactly. And I think brands should still use trends, and there's a way of doing it that's sort of authentic to the brand, but just ensuring that you're still creating content that's particularly focused for your audience and relevant to your brand as well.
Yeah, okay, so kind of using the trends sparingly but sticking like on the majority of the time to your kind of
what's kind of adding value.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, cool. Any other mistakes that you see kind of crop up time and time
Yeah,
again?
I think that this one's maybe like a bit boring, but putting all your eggs into one basket. So when you do see success on a particular channel, again, that can be tempting to kind of go hard on that channel. And also I understand that not all budgets are, endless. So you need to prioritize in some way. But I think the clients that have the greatest success are the ones that spend time like investing in like laying foundations in lots of areas. So like investing in building an email list and making sure you've got all your analytics and tracking on your website set up properly, so that when you're doing your activity, whatever it might be, if it's your social media, they all start to feed each other. If you lay those foundations, it becomes a bit of a digital ecosystem. And I think every piece of activity is then more successful if you do that. And like the way that social media platforms are at the moment, like it's quite turbulent, like algorithms are changing all the time, and it can be quite volatile. So if one thing switches off and you've only been focusing in one particular area, you could be, as a brand, in a really vulnerable position. So I think it's really key to just sort of lay those foundations in lots of areas and not just focus on one.
Yeah, makes sense. And are there certain types of content that you're seeing kind of working particularly well at the moment?
So short form vertical video content is working really well across a lot of channels. And I think investing in short form video content is something that can be valuable for lots of different channels. So obviously there's YouTube Shorts, Instagram and TikTok. So you can repurpose that content. So yeah, that is performing really well for a lot of our clients. And yeah, I would encourage brands to start investing there if they haven't already.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's super interesting. So I think often, well, potentially brands are sort of getting a little bit confused around this. There's obviously so much that you can do.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's almost like, where do you even begin with different channels or the different types of
content?
It feels like maybe a bit of a big beast in order to try and kind of really get it right. Yeah, okay. Cool. And then last question for me is, what are do you have sort of 3 key takeaways for brands that are kind of looking to stand out from the crowd and improve their social presence?
I think that definitely experimenting is a good one. So having a bit of a test and learn approach to see what content works for your audience. We'll often encourage brands to do like a 30-day challenge, and so post for 30 days consistently on a particular channel to learn what works best. Just because those types of little experiments are really valuable, so that you can see, okay, actually this piece of content stood out massively. Is that some sort of repeatable format? Could we do like a content series based around something like that? That would be one thing to try. And sorry, what was the question again? Key takeaways?
Yeah, key takeaways. Yeah, for kind of improving social, their sort of presence on social media, maybe kind of building those relationships.
Okay, yeah. Another one would be, so when it comes to influencer marketing, I think it's really important that you build organic relationships. So before jumping straight in to doing like lots of paid sponsored campaigns with influencers, and then just like hoping and expecting it to transform things, because I think like when you hear about successful campaigns on social media, you do hear about, oh, this product sold out, we did a campaign with X, and all of a sudden, and that can happen, but there's a lot of luck involved in there. It's quite risky. I wouldn't say that's a particularly reliable strategy. So if you build sort of genuine relationships with influencers who might like your product, maybe their values align with your brand, and perhaps do some sort of organic work with those influencers, you'll have some data, because you might have some content that you can look on. Then I think when you do want to do a bigger campaign, you'll have greater success, and it will just feel so much more genuine, and audiences are more likely to convert, basically.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the authenticity thing is really important, isn't it? And it coming across as real and genuine and believable. So often you see, stuff on Instagram or wherever where it looks a bit forced, and I guess it's at the detriment to the brand, because it doesn't look authentic.
Exactly. And I think my last one as well would be social media is great for so many things, but on its own, it's not a marketing strategy. And because you can achieve quite quick success in terms of like views or followers, particularly on certain platforms, I think you might feel like, oh, okay, this is the strategy. But actually, we find that you might have great engagement and you might have what looks like a thriving channel, but actually you're not going to achieve sales if you don't have an overarching marketing strategy in place. Like, you still, whatever it might be, whether it's like events in person or virtual events or whatever it could be, I think it's really key to have that, and social media is a part of the marketing strategy, but not the entire strategy.
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. I think I think often it's a lot of emphasis is placed there, whereas it needs to be kind of that holistic overview. Interesting. Cool, amazing, thank you. That's been super helpful, and it's been great to have you.
Thanks so much. It was great.